basically my pants rip right around the button fly. So my junk is hanging out pretty much all the time. Obviously when I'm standing there, it's not quite as covered up. But if I sit down, I've got air conditioning, you know what I mean? That I shouldn't have. So me not thinking too brightly, I take some of these pins, right? And I go ahead and I pin my pants back together, right? So the next time we're up there doing IADs, running around, during one of the times of jumping around, I must have stretched and popped my pants and those pins popped open. So I'm like this dumb young new guy, and I know better than to get out of alignment. So I jump up and I feel these needles go shroom, and they stick into me, the part you can imagine, right?
Hey everybody, this is Sean with Centurion Arms, and today we are offering a new rendition of our interview process, and pretty excited about today because we have a partner that we've been working with for a long time, and that's Centurion Arms, and more specifically Monty. So Monty, go ahead and give us a little bit of just who you are and a little bit about you.
Right on, perfect. Yeah, like you said, my name is Monty LeClair. I own Centurion Arms. I think we started this in 2006. I was still active duty. I guess about me specifically, kind of goes back to when I graduated high school. Pretty much my first thing out the gate was I ended up joining the military, joined the Navy. I did 25 years total. Probably 21 of those or better were pretty much with NSW and the SEAL teams, spanning across the East, West Coast. Some of the other stuff I did was kind of a gun geek. Kind of grew up around firearms, so I ended up in firearms development programs with Warcom under the SOCOM umbrella. So worked a bunch of weapons programs, which is kind of right up my alley. And, like I said, I started this in 2006. We had outsourced some of our initial products to local machine shops to where I was in San Diego. When I retired out of sniper school last 3.5 years in Indiana, and I happened to find a house here nearby and some property. And so we kind of moved the business here and got it going. And now we're pretty much in a local town nearby, the old sniper school, in a 20,000 square foot building, and just trying to, load it up with CNC machines and starting to make our own product. So.
Nice. So moving towards pretty much making everything in-house now.
A lot of it. There's some stuff we still will outsource just because it's so much faster and effective. But, we do our own uppers, our own lowers, our hand guards, our own, we're doing a lot of muzzle devices, starting to do more muzzle devices right now, gas blocks, buffer tubes. So, a lot. We're actually getting into the bolts and carriers as well. So.
Nice, which is something that Centurion is known for, solid bolts. I mean, you guys are known for a lot of stuff, and we'll get a little bit more into the product side of stuff. But first, I kind of want to get the idea of you and the company a lot more, and then we can kind of start pinpointing on some of the products, because there are definitely some stuff we want to talk about there. So first off, with you, what caused you? So everybody has a reason to want to join the military for one reason or another. What was kind of your reasoning? What made you want to go that direction versus whatever other direction was possible?
Yeah, I just, I know as a kid, my dad was big, into old historic military arms, like Mausers and a lot of the old history stuff. He literally had a room full of books on old World War II stuff, so he's read that. So I was kind of always fascinated with the military stuff and the firearms aspect of it. So I just think being kind of steeped in that the whole time, I always knew I'd do something military. Then for a long time, I was always going to be like, I just knew about Rangers and Green Berets. So I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. And then I think on my 16th birthday, he bought me a book called Element of Surprise by Daryl Young. And I want to say I sat down the first night and I read the first 2 chapters. And after the second chapter, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing. I put the book down and started young. It was silly, 60-year-old kid go off for a run, do some pushes. Like, that's it. I was just so motivated in reading the first couple chapters about buds and the entrance process and all the work to do it. And I was just like, that just fired me up right there. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a SEAL. And so I just finished the book and I ended up reading it like 4 or 5 times in a row. And then that kind of just set me on that course. So as soon as I could, I joined the Navy and started heading down that path.
So how was that experience for you? I know a lot of people struggle a lot of times, like trying to get into buds, going through that process, making it through buds. Talk a little bit about that for me. Like how was your experience?
Here's the funny part was that I was working out and running and all that, but really The one thing I did not have a whole lot of experience with, believe it or not, shocker, was water. So it was about 3 weeks before I was going to join the Navy. I was like, well, I probably better figure out the swimming thing. So I better figure out how to learn how to swim. So I went down to the YMCA, and I could jump in over my head and like doggy paddle around, but I really didn't know any strokes or anything else like that. So it wasn't like I was going to drown in the deep end of the pool. But I wasn't necessarily like a strong swimmer. Spent a whole lot of time, getting a lot of distance. So went down to the YMCA. They showed me. I'm like, well, if I was told I need to know breaststroke and side stroke, they showed me those two strokes. I just swam my ass off for a couple of weeks, and went in the Navy and joined. I've made it through, in the A school. I was able to actually pass the test to include the swimming portion of it to get the times down to qualify for BUDS. And then from there, I just swam my ass off. So I made it through the medical, which is a corpsman school. I made it through that. Ended up going out to San Diego, waiting for class time, and I just kept swimming. And the funny part about it is by the time I got there, I was so concerned about swimming, having not spent a whole bunch of swim time, but kind of trying to educate myself on what evolutions there were, practicing and spend so much time in the water, that by the time I got there, my actual more so my problem ended up being running. So, obviously I ended up making it through and stuff, but it was like, I ended up being one of the slower runners. Is that my joke in BUDS was like, if you're behind me, you didn't graduate kind of thing. So, but at any rate, yeah, I was able to funnel my way through the whole process. So I didn't think it was really all that bad, to be honest with you. Like they said, everybody thinks about quitting. It's like, I didn't have a plan B. So, it didn't really, really occur to me to quit. I guess I was too dumb to do anything else. So I thought. So it was just kind of like I just stayed on that path, and it was fine. I just had to struggle through the runs, which was fine. And the swimming ended up not being that big of a deal. So I lucked out.
From my understanding, I wasn't blessed enough to be able to go that route at all. But it's very much mental. I mean, there's a physical aspect. You have to be able to physically swim and run and do all that, but I feel like, from my understanding of the people that I've talked to, it's the not being able to quit. Like, that's the mental part, is like, no matter what, like if you're getting pulled under and you're gonna, you feel like you're gonna drown, it's like understanding, like controlling that chaos and just being able to get through it and make it to the end of whatever that training iteration is. But I think that, like, you made the joke of too dumb to quit. I feel like that's a lot of the guys that I talked to. That's what they say. They're like, I just didn't know how to quit, so I just kept going. And I feel like that's a big part of like the BUDS aspect, is you're looking for people that no matter what, they're not going to give up with just a lot of bit of friction. It's not like it's an easy walk in the park by any means, but when it comes to that though, so I wanted to focus on that, is how did that mindset bleed over into Centurion Arms? Like, how has that helped you get this company off the ground and be afloat for 2006? So almost 20 years now, 18 years,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it's coming up. Actually, it's surprising that it's been that long. A lot of it is just keeping, same kind of mindset. You just keep your mind, your nose at the grindstone, keep going. The up times, the down times, the hard times, the lean times, the fat times, and just kind of lean into everything and kind of just do what you got to do to get through it. I mean, after being out and retiring and stuff like that, is completely different, kind of running this full time and depending on it, running it, and kind of going through, different stuff. And I guess in a lot of ways, it's the same mindset. You just lean into, the things that you have to do. A lot of it is a lot more, just running a company in general, not even just a gun company, but the mundane stuff of dealing with basic business stuff, and just to keep it going. Once again, you just kind of lean into it and kind of take it a bite at a time. And, if you don't know how to do something, get other people in to help you that do know how to do things. And, once again, and, same with BUDS, a lot of times we all rely on each other. If someone had a weak point with someone, other guys would go out and work with them. And so, here it's a little bit different from the standpoint, if I know I'm weak in something, I need to be able to recognize that I'm weak in it and reach out to other people and get help as a company goes. Some of it's, basic business stuff, and some of it's, design work stuff. Some of it's, knowing people in the industry and say, hey, I'm really working on this project, but I'm having a hard time doing something, and reaching out to, engineers and stuff. So I would say that I've been pretty fortunate in the fact of a lot of my military time helped open doors for a lot of that stuff. A lot of the engineers that I've worked with on stuff have been from, engineers from FN, working with engineers that help with the HK416 project, who've worked at SIG as well. Possibly worked at Caracal, and then also, some people who, used to work at Knights and did a lot of development and some of the SR25 related stuff. So, just kind of reaching out and kind of trying to collaborate and work with people and keep business going, leaning forward.
I feel like that's a big part of this industry too, that outsiders looking in don't understand, is that a lot of companies work together behind the scenes in little ways like that, like just offering help. Even if you're, essentially a competitor in the space, there's still that camaraderie, I guess, or I don't know what the right word would be, but you don't see it all the time in other industries. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of the backgrounds of people in this industry is previous military, and they understand that concept. And even though it's different branches, it could be Navy SEAL, and then you could be asking help from a Ranger down the road, or something. And it's something that I've grown to appreciate. I don't have any military background, but that cohesion aspect has always kind of been appealing to me. I played sports throughout high school and up into college, played some college football. And for me, it was the part that I missed the most is that cohesion. But I also know that any one of those guys, I can hit them up right now if I needed help, and they would be there. So anyways, that was just like a little piece of the industry. Is just really cool. I love our industry. I think it's unique in its own ways, because it's so many people from same but different backgrounds, always willing to help each other out. Things like going to SHOT Show and or TriggerCon, like our show, people are coming to see the people that they used to work with, if they will work with them in a different company or a different capacity, and just people are just super stoked and happy. So I definitely appreciate that part. And to talk about that a little bit more, do you remember when you met John for the first time?
Yeah, actually, I was on a trip. I think we were doing a site survey years ago up at the base to possibly do mobility training on, I'm trying to think of the name of the base. It's horrible. I'm forgetting the name of the base, but I happened to be in the Washington area. So, and we're I think at the time we're just doing the sites. So I stopped in, I looked up, John and stopped in and actually met him at the store there that he had right there in Washington. So I do. Yep. I remember meeting him the first time there, and then seeing him subsequent years at SHOT Show. Okay.
So when do you feel like your relationship with John kind of grew into a friendship partnership? I mean, was it pretty quick? Like, I know a lot of people meet John and they love the guy. Or is it something that just kind of built over the years?
Yeah. I mean, I think we were already talking, doing some business at that first time that I'd met him. So I would say probably realistically, even the first time I met him, like you said, just right away. I mean, yeah, real personable guy, helpful, had good advice on a lot of stuff. He definitely had way more of the business side of stuff and marketing and understanding all that way down more than I do, and obviously still does, So I would say he was always real helpful with that and really good. And then I'd say, yeah, it just grew going over there. A lot of times being at SHOT Show and going out to different dinners and stuff like that with groups of people, and he was always there. And so, yeah, I would say pretty much all along.
Awesome. Okay. A lot of people know John and love John. It's pretty cool to see. I can wear my Rainier Arms shirt and I can wear it out to SHOT Show or one of the other shows, NRA or whatever. And somebody's always going to come up and be like, oh man, is John here? And tell me some story about how they met John like years ago. I mean, this guy has some friends from such a long time ago. So about how long ago was that? Do you remember what year?
Oh man, that would probably, it was probably 2007, 2008 would be my guess. So it's been a little while.
Okay. So you're still pretty new with the company at that point. Centurion Arms starting in.
Yeah, I think, I very first started dealing with them. The only thing we had was sites was the initial product. I think we come out with those and we hit it out like on AR15.com and just set up a little page, and that stuff would just kind of start moving and trickling out. And then we kind of, expanded into uppers and stuff from there. And so, yeah, I don't want to say I'd met John probably even before we started doing uppers. It was just the sites.
That's crazy. And now look, you got full rifle builds and everything going on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So what inspired the creation of, or the starting of Centurion Arms? What kind of made you want to go that route?
It's once again always been around the firearm stuff, related stuff, and then being in the military, working a lot of development programs while I was there and kind of seeing that stuff and always trying to, having the operational side of stuff and always wanting to look at stuff and dice stuff up and products and see what was out there that could give you that advantage, I guess, if you will, from a longevity point, an accuracy point, durability point, all those things that I kind of would want as a weapon, when I'm going into harm's way or on operational stuff that to carry. And so since I was kind of a gun geek, in the teams and pretty much probably all the special operations, you get guys that kind of get hyper focused in certain areas. You got your air guys that their thing is to go skydiving on the weekend. You get the water guys that their thing is to go scuba diving on the weekend. Mine was I was just the gun geek. I was the guy that would dive all the way down as far as I could go down the firearms rabbit holes. What's the best material for barrels? What's the best way to make a barrel? What's the most accurate barrels out there? What's the best operating systems? What materials, for, bolt groups and just all those things, what's the best ambidextrous controls? Just all those things. I wanted to go down all those rabbit holes. That's what kind of interested me and kind of kept me going. So with that, I ended up in the development seat doing, a lot of operational tests and evaluation and stuff when I was at Warcom under SOCOM. So it was nice because I was already kind of into all that stuff. So when I met some of those guys, they're like, hey, we got the job for you. You need to be over here doing this. And then that just kind of opened up a whole nother door of getting out into the industry and, of going to Belgium, going to the FN factory in Belgium and seeing, what the latest and greatest and talking to them about materials and talking to them about all this stuff. And then also seeing operators come through and doing the testing on guns and all the feedback and just kind of being immersed in all that stuff. A lot of it. And then also doing like the upper builds myself. It's like, hey, I've got my own ideas on some of this stuff. And as I would joke, is I'm the guy with the crayon that draws it out on a napkin. And then I got to go get, one of the engineering guys to actually like put this incoherent napkin into a solid model, and we can bounce it back and forth until we come up with kind of a product that I'm looking for. And, a lot of the guys I've dealt with I've been real lucky. They've been super experienced guys and they understand what I'm looking for. And then a lot of times it's a collaboration with them because, they're telling me like, hey, this might be an improvement you need to look at, and things that I've either overlooked that they've seen or know from an engineering standpoint or something that they've already done in weapons development. And I would say, knock on wood, I mean, I've been really happy with a lot of the stuff. Yeah, the handguards that we've done, to the bolt groups that we're doing. And I mean, we actually got a whole bunch of new products kind of churning right now that hopefully we'll continue coming out with over the next couple of years. I think right now that we've really stood up the new facility with the manufacturing, and we're still fleshing through getting a lot of that refined. But with some of the engineering guys that I've been working with and stuff, I think we got a lot of stuff in the hopper right now to hopefully come out. So a lot of whole new areas for us to crack into.
Nice. Anything that you can shine any light on, or is it all kind of hush hush for now?
Some of it. So basically, we worked on some bolt stuff, some bolt and carrier stuff. The bolt stuff, that's kind of already out there in 5.56. We're stepping up and doing the 7.62 related stuff. The bolts that, I was able to work with a guy who basically dimensionally, we're able to redo a lot of the dimensions on the bolt that allows us to get close to 2.5 times the normal lifespan of a bolt. We're using, one thing that we stay away from too is Centurion Arms is for me is I try not to jump on fad stuff. So it's not like we're looking for the latest coating and stuff. We kind of try to go with more proven tech or let something flesh itself out. Or, if it's something super new, we're real cautious about that kind of stuff. So hence you see our bolts and carriers, I like hard chrome. So we do a lot of hard chrome. We're not going with a lot of the other stuff. I know that there's other ones out here. I'm not here to bash certain coatings, but luckily I was able to sit there and see a lot of the military testing on stuff. You kind of see what panned out and what didn't. Or, a lot of times there's not an issue, but if there is an issue, it's this and that. So for me, like we've stuck with hard chrome just because it's such a tried and true, time proven finish. So like our bolts and carriers, we pretty much are all the stuff we make at house for the most part is fully hard chromed. And we look for stuff also with the bolt related stuff that we're doing is what can we do to give the most advantage to the end user for durability, longevity, quality, without going totally proprietary. And And even if we offer some proprietary offerings, we're really trying to start out with less proprietary stuff. And so what I mean by that is we do a dual ejector. Well, it's a standard ejector. So, if for whatever reason a meteorite were to hit Centurion Arms tomorrow and it was gone, you wouldn't be pigeonholed into some totally custom parts. Like our extractors are the normal extractors. We didn't feel like a lot of the extractor advantages came from a lot of the stuff that people have done in the past, because with the new springs, the new 5-coil springs with the black inserts, they don't offer the advantage anymore. So we were able to stick with standard extractors. The dual ejectors, it's a standard ejector. It's a standard spring. So, we're able to give an advantage with the standard stuff by just the geometry of adding the second one to it. And then after that, the advantages come in the basic machining and the geometry of the bolt, either where we've left more material or we've put larger radiuses to give you a much stronger, longer lasting bolt. We have E4 bolts, which are a little bit more proprietary, but we also have our V2 bolts, which will drop into any gun and still give you advantage. Our E4 bolts require our barrel extensions, but we're beginning to put those on everything. And if you have one of our barrels with the E4 barrel extension, a standard bolt will drop into it. So we're trying to remain as versatile as possible, but offering us as much advantages as we can. We're doing a dual ejector now. We're looking at possibly doing a single ejector. We're also stepping into the 7.62 bolts, because that's one area that we've seen is when we bought a long time ago, we came out with, I'd say, heck now, 3, 4, 5 years ago, came out with our own uppers and lowers to do complete 7.62 guns. And we had a real hard time finding good sourcing for carriers if we weren't making them ourselves to build the complete guns. We never kind of did. We just offered the parts. And so that's another thing we're doing is I finally was able to get someone who really understood it, who's traveled that path before and done a really good job. And the platforms he's worked on have phenomenal success with super high round counts. So I was like, that's perfect. The geometry. We need to make bolts with this guy. So he's kind of done all the engineering on our bolts. We're putting all that into play right now for 7.62 stuff. So that's another thing that'll come in. So along with, once we nail that down, you'll start seeing a lot more 6.5 Creedmoor and 7.62 complete rifles and uppers for us. We're kind of going the Knight's Armament path, if you will, for compatibility, since we're most familiar with it, number one. Number two, just the fact that to us, if there's any mil spec in the 7.62 world, that's the most dominant one. The DPMS pattern, a lot of other stuff. It's out there. It's good. I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but if there is a mil spec to be had, we felt like that was really the pattern. So we're sticking with that geometry on a lot of the stuff for that. And then, we're starting to dip in, and probably what you'll see from us fairly soon, and I don't mind mentioning it, is suppressors.
Okay. Branch it out one more then.
So, we're dipping into the suppressor stuff. We're looking at some 3D printed. The 3D printing has kind of been pretty cool, working with a designer for that stuff. And the 3D printed, the first one that we're going to do is going to be a 3D printed 100% Inconel suppressor. We've already spent thousands of rounds testing it and getting the thing basically just completely, torqued red hot and doing SOCOM shooting tests on it over and over again. It's performing really well. I mean, it's about ready for prime time, and the 3D printing allows us to basically create stuff that you couldn't actually otherwise machine. So it allows you to kind of take that development and enhancement, and I guess, if you will, make a lot more effective product, because you can actually come up with geometry that's conducive to suppressors that helps, almost no blowback, no flash, hearing safe. The whole suppressor industry is kind of developing really well. And I feel very fortunate, to have worked with who we're working with to come up with what we had, because to me so far, I mean, I kind of like, okay, we're starting this row. We got a prototype and shot it, and the thing was phenomenal out of the box. So we've done really minor tweaks, and I'd say we're fairly close soon. I mean, it would be nice to have it out by the end of the year. So that would be our first suppressor, and start moving down that path. And along with that, we're going to come up with our own hub mounts and flash hiders and everything else.
Man, I like it. That'll be interesting. I'm excited to get those in and check them out for sure.
No, yeah.
Is it going to be just 5.56, or are you going to kind of offer going along with that 7.62, so like a 30 cal can, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll definitely expand out. So the first thing, we've actually got one out now, but the one that we have now, It's one that I've actually been running for a while. It's kind of one of the modular cans. So you'll see that out now, and it's got, it's kind of a combination of steel and aluminum, and kind of got it from the idea of I bought a bunch of different cans and playing with them. And I was like, I bought one. I was like, it's kind of a silly can. And, but I bought it and was playing with it. I'm like, actually, it's kind of got some functionality to it. The way I saw it, I was like going, I can't really poo-poo this can, it's like there's certain aspects of it. And so what we kind of did is it's standard baffle design with stuff, but it's a modular one. So it kind of the baffle screw together and stuff. And I'd shot it in a couple different configurations, and we'd made some of our own versions. And the sound attenuation on it's really good. It reduces the sound by quite a bit, and it allowed me to build it out and shorten it to what I want. And it realistically, for the way I shoot nowadays, I never really, even when I was in the military, I didn't sit there and go do full auto mag dumps or anything else like that. But realistically, during realistic training and realistic hunting and realistic general shooting use, the can's definitely durable enough for me so far to have handled all that. I've had it for a while. So I thought, we'll just start with that. So we kind of started with that while we're working on the other one. And then the printed can just kind of ended up coming along so fast that hopefully here we'll have good data on it. I was able to get, I was dealing with some stuff down at Crane, since Crane, Indiana is not too far away for the military stuff. And I was able to get some testing done from them. So I'm kind of waiting to hear some of that back, but I think it did pretty well on some of the testing. So we'll have that data to put out with 3D printed can. But we definitely will plan on going into 7.62 and maybe making some for 300 blackout and maybe even for 9mm ARs and stuff. But the first one is obviously the cans, Centurion Arms modular suppressor that's already out, that really kind of just came out. And then the other one it is the basically the 3D printed Inconel can. That'll be out shortly. And that can, you can beat the hell out of. It's meant to take some abuse. It'll definitely withstand all the military testing. So.
Well, it sounds like you've taken a lot of your experiences from the military, essentially, because I think you're testing a lot of your stuff too, right? Those military standards and all that. So is there any kind of, is there a story or a point in the past where, when you were still in the military, that you identified a problem that now that you're out and you're creating firearms, that you've sought the solution to fix that problem? I mean, is there any one of your products that you're utilizing right now that essentially got its birth maybe was because of something that happened back in the day?
Luckily, I would say I didn't have too many major, once again, being a gun geek, I kind of modified a lot of my guns on my own, whether I was supposed to or not. So I didn't run into a lot of problems. Like, since I'm a lefty, I was able to modify them with a lot of the lefty stuff that was out there. Other than like a broken bolt, I never had anything major go wrong with them. I would say I was never a big fan of the suppressors that we had at the time. I just don't think that the technology kind of hadn't, I guess, matured enough, I suppose, for lack of a better way of saying it. I don't know whether to say it that way or not. It's just a lot of the cans that we had, they were loose on the gun. I remember us having to wrap duct tape around, and as you can imagine, when that gets hot, what a gooey mess that turns into with glue and plastic and everything melting around it to keep the gate closed so that it would stay on your firearm while you're shooting it. So I would say, really, I guess the thing that when I look back that I felt was, other than longevity and durability of the weapon system itself, which we've worked on a lot here to make them last a lot longer, I would say the suppressor as a single item probably is one of the things that stuck out to me from the standpoint of usability, issues with accuracy, issues with point of impact shift kind of stuff, and just kind of how much blowback and back pressure came through the gun, how much less pleasant it made the firearm to shoot. And so that's one of the things that I'm really excited at the new Inconel printed suppressor. I would say actually even the cans that we have is a much better shooting experience for me than the stuff that I had in the military. I would say that's even an upgrade. And then the Inconel can that we've got coming out is like ridiculous. Like I was like shocked at how well it worked for flash and how well it worked for having no blowback in your face, let alone being down at a level that was, I'm certain was ear safe from listening to it. It was very comfortable to shoot. So I would say that's probably one of the big ones that I think this will be a big one in my opinion for one of the products that I've seen. It's like I finally have got my hands on something that I feel like was a major technical advantage over anything that I had, and it's going to be our product. So I'm happy about that.
Got to be proud about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you want to start with sights? You said that was your first product that you had. What was the reason behind that?
It was really weird because the HK 416 had kind of come out at that time, and I had some early military ones that were playing with for testing and stuff like that, and I'd seen it, and I'd always been a fan of the HK sights. I'd had HK 91s, the MP5, HK 94 civilian variants and stuff, and I'd always a big fan of that sight system. So when I was able to get a hold of one of the upper receivers for the HK 416 playing with it, they had adapted that to the AR, basically for their HK 416. And I was just a big fan of that sight system. So I was like, I got to shooting that one. I was like, okay, I really like this. And I guess it was the fact that receiver on those, the top rail is like 215 thou taller than a standard receiver. So if you take those off the HK 416, put them on a standard AR, your head's actually too low on the stock. It's not necessarily very natural. So what we did is we just measured all the differences and we created our own for a standard AR-15 that made the bases a little bit taller to make up that gap difference. And so that's kind of what we did with it. We just did that, had the bases made, and then take the sights off from old MP5s and different weapon systems, and we're able to assemble them and just put them on there. So it was a real just easy thing to start with to kind of fulfill something that I wanted myself. And a lot of people had mentioned that, they'd like the same thing. So I kind of saw that and I was like, well, I want it for me. So I went ahead and did it. And it was nice because it was kind of a self-supporting project because I was able to, at least sell some of it to make up for my cost of making them. So I was like, okay, well, this is good. And then I started getting into building uppers. And then as I was building uppers, it kind of turned into, man, these rails are a real pain in the ass to put together. I think I got a better idea. It's like these rails got this problem. These rails got this as I saw it. You know what I mean? This could be improved here. This could be improved. This one's hard to put together. This one's not really all that rigid. This one I could take with my hand and tweak it, and it doesn't stay in the same position. So my sights are never going to stay sighted in. And just different ones across different things. And so it was like, this one's really easy to install. So how do I make it more rigid? It was kind of like, that's kind of how it kind of came about is like, okay, I want one that's, user friendly, easy to install, has the rigidity I want, and kind of all those things. So that kind of led into the handguards, and that kind of went down that path. And then, as I was working the weapons programs, looking at all the machine guns and the SCAR programs and barrel materials and processes from hammer forging, and that kind of led us into the hammer forged barrel process and materials. After working all those military programs, you see the testing and the longevity of different materials. So in a lot of ways, I got free eyes on, testing, if you will, and development, because I got to see, what the military and larger companies who are doing military contracting are spending, hundreds of thousands, $500,000, $1 million here and there on testing stuff. And to be privy to see the inside of it, it's like, oh, okay, that's what I want there. And, be able to put that together to kind of come up with our own barrels, and be able to tailor that to what we wanted. So I was fortunate for that.
Nice. Do you have any military, like, is any of your Centurion parts being used in the military, ever been adopted, or do you have the plans of ever trying to push something like that?
Well, I thought about that. So we have different units and different people that will buy stuff from us on credit cards. We don't have per se an NSN or a program of record. We really kind of haven't even tried to put anything into that or pushed into that. But like I said, we do sell some to different units, different law enforcement, federal law enforcement. Actually, I don't want to say it because there's some that they prefer me not to say who it was. But I mean, so we have, and we do that. I would like to pursue more program of record type stuff, larger competitive stuff. I am, 100% service disabled, veteran-owned business, kind of all certified with the government and stuff. We just really, I would need to get somebody to focus on that full time, and we hadn't done that yet. Partially a couple things. One is just production levels. It seems like every time we expand production, the sales, kind of follow it. So it's kind of like, you almost feel like, man, I keep expanding. I feel like I'm chronically like just barely keeping up or behind. And I think one thing that we did this last year and this next year that's going to help us is finally we got a lot of some of the processes refined, but we're going into automation now. So we do have one robot in the shop. Hopefully, knock on wood, by the end of the year, we'll have 3 more robots. So we'll be able to start doing a lot more 24-hour manufacturing with the machines that we've got. So I think that's going to give us a big advantage. Now, with that, when we can start to begin to produce a surplus over what we're doing right now, I would really like to look into a lot of the military contracting stuff.
Gotcha. I mean, it just makes sense because that's something that I've always known Centurion Arms for is hard use. You know, you can rely on it and you can beat it up. Like you said before, you don't really jump on the new trends and the flashy stuff. So, you know, you're not falling in that market, but products have always been solid. I've never really heard anything bad talking about this was made cheap or, you know, it didn't hold up to whatever abuse. It's always kind of held up from what I've seen. So that's why I was kind of curious about that, because it would make sense with your background to get there. But I also understand the time commitment and everything that it takes to achieve any of that. So on the other side of military and LEO, competitive world, I know it's growing very largely. Is that something that Centurion Arms is kind of got their sights in, or is that, I mean, do you have any sponsored shooters, or are you planning on kind of approaching that kind of category at all?
You know, I know we've got some shoot teams and stuff that we have like pro deals with, and they come and get stuff from us. And I know we have some DMR guys. That'd be something that'd be interesting in is sponsoring more of that stuff. I know right now we got some guys that come in and pick and choose and use some product and stuff. But yeah, that's something I want to push into more for sure. But right now I don't have like we have the Centurion Arms shooting team in this discipline kind of thing. We don't have. I'm definitely interested in sponsoring more people and more team stuff, especially as we get the supplies to be able to do it and do more of it and push out into it. We've gotten good feedback. I know there's a lot of people out there shooting in like DMR competitions and stuff like that we get a lot of positive feedback from. So it seems like a lot of those guys, we got pro deals with them and they come back repetitively and over and over again for parts. So, you know, as they're shooting and wearing stuff out and, you know, and then other things we have like the bolts, we have a lifetime guarantee. You break a bolt or break it around the thing, we'll replace a bolt for you. We're that confident in the level of the bolts and stuff. Barrels to a degree are consumable, you know, no matter who or what. You shoot enough rounds through them, you're going to wear out the throats and stuff. But yeah, we definitely am all about giving like pro deals or working with people or, you know, shooting teams. But so far, yeah, the ones that we do have been really good at giving us good little feedback about little tips here and there on some stuff that have kind of helped out. So.
Good. That's actually what I was going to ask next is if you've taken any of the feedback from any of the competitors or LEO or military that is using any of your products and like how you implement that into making, you know, those changes if they're necessary and whatnot. I mean, do you guys listen quite a bit to the feedback that's coming in?
Yeah, for sure. We do. Anything that's coming in, a lot of times if we see a weakness on our own, even if it's not complained about, we'll look at starting to engineer around it and try to fix that kind of stuff. And then also feedback for sure, no doubt about it. We've got a couple things that we're working on right now with product for you know, product improvement stuff. And then you know, for instance, another with the LE stuff you'd mentioned and working with other companies. Our handguards are pretty much the ones that Colt uses on all their law enforcement guns. And I know when we've gone back and forth, we made some improvements from them. I mean, we made some mounting improvements with them just because some of the stuff that they were having, and we had a few little machine things back, I mean, years ago, just one of those little hiccup flaws that you kind of learn through manufacturing. And they were having problems with it. And I know it ended up being good in a way, good for our relationship from the standpoint if they called me. Some of it I understood what they're talking about. Some of it I didn't understand. But they're, you know, big customer of ours. They're selling a lot of rails. And so basically on the phone con, I was like, you know, they're like, well, we're having this problem. I'm like, okay, that I can get fixed for you. I understand that. I'm not sure on this other aspect that you're talking about. And I think it kind of surprised them, but I was like, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And they're kind of like, what? Like, yeah, I'm booking a flight tonight or tomorrow morning. I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon. So I flew out there and I ended up spending a week with the Colt guys on the assembly floor. to see what they were talking about. And then the one problem that I knew we did had, it was real minor, something super minor. So I was able to bring hand tools out and fix any of the issues of the stuff that I did understand, but they're having problems with right there on the spot and get it back to them. Like, I don't want you to have to alter your big company. You don't need to alter your production schedule because of an issue that we had. Don't work around us. Tell me what it is. I'm coming out and fixing it. So I did. I fixed all that stuff on the floor in like 2 days for them. And then the other stuff, I was able to sit there and talk to them and walk through and kind of deal with, problems where like they said, well, the directions that you have for assembly isn't always conducive to the way we're doing things here on the assembly line. It's a little easier like this. So we're able to work with them to come up with, and we altered our clamping method a little bit on the barrel nuts for them to make it easier for them to basically get fitted into their workflow and still get a good, a good clamp, if you will, and a solid mount through the assembly process with what they were doing.
Man, that's solid. You flew all the way out there. I guarantee you they were surprised. Like next,
they'd actually said that they were kind of like, well, one, it was funny because I could tell like I was on a conference call with them, and you could hear it. Yeah, like when I said that, you could hear a pin drop. And you could tell I was on the conference call, and there's about like 5 or 6 people in the room. I was like, all right, well, I'll see you tomorrow. And they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah, I'm flying out there. I'll fly out there. I'll be on a plane either tonight or tomorrow. And I ended up spending like a week out there. And when I showed up, they were like, they were shocked. They're like, we've got companies that we literally buy 25 times as much stuff from you. And, they don't give us this kind of service, basically, is what they're saying. And it's like, well, I mean, if I got a problem and it's my product, I'll take care of it. You know what I mean? If it's truly a product issue and it's on us, we stand behind it. So I flew out there, and it was good to see what they're doing. It's like, we came up with ideas to help them on other stuff that they weren't even, wasn't even addressed in it. Going, hey, I see you guys doing this, and kind of went back and forth with them. It's like, okay, well, let us see what we can do on our end to make the product more easy to integrate for you guys as well. So, I think they were surprised by it. Actually, it was pretty funny. They were like kind of surprised that we flew all the way out there. So,
wait, but that says a lot about you and about the company itself, is to be able to commit that kind of time and money, because obviously I'm sure you paid for it out of your own pocket. They didn't fly you out there, but to have that kind of attention to detail and that kind of essentially like tenacity, like you didn't want to let this be a thing. I didn't want to have a small failure. We're going to fix this right now. And that's huge. And so many companies won't. There's companies out there right now that we can name, but we're not going to, that there are glaring issues that everyone knows about, and nothing gets changed or done, and that's unfortunate for the end consumer, because they're essentially the ones that are being affected by it, and so that's something I wish more people would do, for sure. Now, switching gears a little bit, you've always been a gun nut. You've always enjoyed it. Has that changed since it became more of your profession? So we always hear like, hey, don't make your favorite thing your hobby your profession, because you're going to lose the love. Has that happened for you at all, or do you think it's increased, or what?
I mean, I understand what people are saying when they actually say that. I kind of do. I would say the downside to taking your passion and doing it is, what I find is running the business and running the shop end up taking so much time. People think, oh, you must shoot all the time. It's like, no, actually, the deeper I go into the business, it's like the less I actually get to shoot. That's the one downside. I am trying to change that. I'm breaking out and getting out and doing some long range shooting and doing some other stuff, or trying to set up a range real close to our property with some stuff, so to go out to like 1,100 yards. That's something the last couple of days we've been working on, so we can do some long range work like within like 2 or 3 miles of my house. So we're working on that kind of stuff. I'm trying to get out there a little bit more. I'm also trying to get more, if you will, with the automation, trying to bring people into the shop to work that can be more autonomous, that can run a machine shop, kind of be able to cut myself away from it a lot more, so that I can actually get out and shoot and really kind of stay more in the product rather than the manufacturing of the product, and let, get the processes in play and get people who understand processes better than I do to keep that going so we don't lose anything. Because I would like to get out more and be able to get out and like you said, go to stuff like TriggerCon and do more of that kind of stuff, as well as just get out and shoot more, as kind of the joke is the guy who drives the shittiest car is the mechanic. You know, the guy that doesn't have the squared away gun sometimes is the, the gunsmith. It's like, it's like my stuff's either laying around, gets cannibalized. Oh, we need this for that. We got to test this, yank that. And it's like, I got like 15 like halfway built guns laying around, that are my personal ones because of that. So actually lately I've been like, okay, I'll stop on all that. I'm fleshing through my personal collection and kind of getting everything back in order and trying to get out and shoot more. And so I am trying to take the time to do a little bit of that so I could stay on top of it a little bit more and get out of the manufacturing side of it. So yeah, so there is a struggle with that. Yeah, because it can take some of it out when you're immersed in the other side of the business aspect of it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate. And I asked you that question because it's been asked to me, and just on the marketing side and doing everything that I do for Rainier, like I still love to compete. I like to do competitive shooting, but man, it's been there's been plenty of times where I find myself at like a USPSA or something like that, and they're like, "Man, how much practice did you have?" And it's like, I haven't. Like I'm just showing up, and we're just gonna see what happens today. It's funny because people assume that. They're like, man, that's what you do for a living. You're constantly doing videos and doing product reviews, and you're X, Y, and Z, and then going to all these like SHOT Show and TriggerCon and NRA and all these things. And it's like, yeah, but there's so much stuff going on that you don't always get the chance to just go out and shoot. And so I still enjoy it, but I definitely don't do it as much as I want to, which is sad. Being a competitive shooter, it's something that I really want to be good at, and I'm just not really putting in the effort. So it's I don't want to say I'm glad that I'm not the only one, but I'm glad that I'm not the only one that's suffering from some of this. But I mean, I still absolutely love what I do. I still love firearms. I still love the idea of what they can be for protection and what they can be as a hobby and for fun. I mean, it's not common that you can have something like that where this can be a tool that protects our freedoms, but at the same time, you can go out with friends and family or just by yourself and like genuinely enjoy your time. Like it's so much fun shooting, reaching out to 1,100 yards, or one time it was 1.1 miles is what I hit. I don't remember what that is in yards, but that was an awesome feeling. Like it's a unique product field. It's a unique industry to be able to do something like that. So yeah, that was a side note. But anyways, when it comes to the testing processes, I know that you had mentioned that you're doing a lot of your testing to be based off of like military standards, or not necessarily military standards, but you're utilizing different testing procedures and stuff. Can you give like a little bit of a detail? Because I know some people are going to want to know what that means a little bit more. Like, so when you build something new and say it's a rifle or barrel or bolt, what is those testing principles, or what are those testing procedures that you're using?
Gotcha. Okay. So like, with that, it's kind of twofold. One, when I was saying, stand to a military standard, a lot of it is going to be like, the dimensioning and tolerances, which goes into kind of the engineering side of it. So hence, working with 7.62, we're sticking with the AR-15 is pretty well worked out, and there's tolerances out there, and there's a lot of people, call it kind of all on that same sheet of music. 7.62 is a little bit different, and that's we stick to the military stuff for 5.56 to 7.62. Once again, with 7.62, that's the Knights has probably dominated, most of the government contract stuff on a lot of that, and we're in that pattern is what I'm saying. So we're using the same tolerancing, dimensioning, if you will, compatibility with that platform, because to us it really is the mil spec. So in that aspect of that, that's what I mean. And then the other aspect, like you said, on the testing, on the operational testing side of it, is for example, with the suppressors using the SOCOM shooting, if you will. The SOCOM has developed the durability test that they want suppressors to be able to survive. It's an eight magazine with very specific cadences or bursts and or full auto mag dumps over so many magazines at certain cadence with a certain cooldown to a certain level, and then you heat it back up. So we're suppressors, a perfect example of something that we're testing exactly in accordance with what they want. I believe, if I remember correctly, I think you got to survive like 6 cycles of it. We're up to, we're shooting for 10 to 12 cycles of that kind of stuff. We want to be able to at least double the durability of the testing that they have on it. And then, so there's that. And then with the accuracy stuff, worked at the sniper school before I got out, worked at accuracy on the, if you will, in the weapons development stuff for a lot of the sniper weapons and stuff. So if we're developing precision weapons, we kind of have an idea what it takes to get that kind of accuracy, how to test for it. Do we want 10 shot groups to meet, such and such a standard? And then a lot of it comes down to the military. It's a little bit different from the standpoint of the ammunition. They have specific ammunition. A lot of people, that's one thing too in the civilian world, that a lot of people they don't always take ammunition into account. They want to build the certain weapon system, and they feed it the wrong thing and wonder why it doesn't perform. That's another thing that we do is our stuff is really kind of geared towards the higher pressure ammunition, the actual military ammunition. If people have problems a lot of times and they send something back, we're able to then, if you go for the higher pressure stuff, you're able to maybe either alter gas ports or alter things to make it work with the civilian ammo. But if you open something up so wide that it works with the civilian ammo out the gate, and they're going to feed it good ammo, you're not really able to tighten it up. Then you're starting to use other adjunct pieces that may or may not cause issues, adjustable gas blocks, just depending on what they choose and stuff. So we kind of gear our stuff more in the military direction, if you will. And once again, talking about the durability on stuff, the accuracy, understanding what the accuracy standards are, how to test those accuracy standards, hence with the shooting, to really qualify something, and then feeding it, the right types of ammo, if you will, to get the performance out of it. And so I don't know if that answered. So
no, it did. It did. I just know that people would be interested in what that more or less meant, and that totally makes sense. I think that's a really good standard also for that suppressor, because I think that's sometimes you get the feedback of, this was tested and it was just like full auto dumps, but it isn't really going through that whole heating and cooling cycle, which can affect the materials quite a bit. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I think that's actually pretty cool. Is there any other kind of like for products, is there any other tests like that you utilize, or is that mostly just going to be like for the suppressor?
That one specifically is for the suppressor, for accuracy standards for barrels. A lot of that's just, going out and shooting it and printing groups with factory ammo, either getting civilian versions of the ammo, if you will, say in 7.62, like a 118 LR or a 316 for the 7.62 guns, and going out and shooting it and making sure your rifle prints with that ammo well. So, a lot of that's a little bit more obscure stuff, and a lot of times people can hand load or shoot different ammo, but just to make sure that the system can perform, with a known quantity ammo, to get it there. So we'll do some testing with that as well to make sure that basically we have a good baseline of a way of testing stuff to ensure that it meets what it's supposed to be doing.
Okay, cool. So you as a lefty, do you allow that to bleed over into the manufacturing? I mean, do you take special considerations for the lefties out there when it comes to designing an upper, a lower, and all of that?
Shockingly, I was probably more resistant to making an ambidextrous lower because I'm left-handed. Because I'm left-handed. I don't need it. Like, the gun's left-handed enough as it is in all reality. To me, you could take a standard. For me, what I did in the military, once again, like I said, I modified my own guns a lot. So I could take my standard M4 and put an ambidextrous selector and an ambidextrous mag catch, and that's all I would need. From there, that gun is 100%. I shoot it left-handed. I got zero, disadvantages at that point. Zero disadvantages to any right-hander with that gun. So a lot of people, are like, well, you got to have ambidextrous in case you shoot left-handed or you're shooting weak-sided. And I'm kind of like going, just add those things and everything's covered. So I finally did. We did go ahead and do ambidextrous stuff. So I guess in a nutshell, now as far as a lefty goes, my experience has kind of showed me that, if you're, I guess it's because it's the different environment. People are looking for something like, hey, I want to be able to shoot either side and have that stuff there. Whereas the environment I kind of grew up with is, hey, we don't give a crap. Here's what you got to use. You know what I mean? And me being the gun guy, went out and picked out little pieces in here and put it in there and go, okay, well, cool. Now I'm good. And then you spend enough time training with it that it was like I said, I was at no disadvantage to anybody right-handed as the left-hander with the platform. But with that, so no, I don't necessarily engineer specifically for lefties. On that side of it, I would say one big advantage, I will say, just trying to think real quickly, linear through our entire product line. I will say the one thing as a lefty, I think I do feel a little bit more pain on is how much gas you eat out of the ejection port on a suppressed gun. You eat a lot more gas. I mean, you end up with your face painted a lot of times with all the oil splatter and dirt since you're right there. So I would say that was one thing that when I shot our suppressor, the 3D printed suppressor for the first time, that was like noteworthy within the first 3 rounds. I was like, yeah, bang, bang, bang. I was like, whoa, like just really noticeable because I'm so used to getting that gas in the face that I was just like, that's kind of weird. Shot first and I was like, whoa, that's weird. Lean back into it, shoot like another quick 5 rounds. And you're like, oh, I'm going to like this. So I would say it was, obviously something that you want to design all the suppressors anyway. But as a lefty, I definitely had a great appreciation for it right out of the box. But we are doing our billet 7.62 does have an ambi bolt release, if you will. Selectors can go on all guns, if you will, and working on and you can use other ones that are out there, mag releases. And then we're revising our 5.56 billet to do the same here real soon as well. So we will have those features for everybody that wants them. And some people just, they prefer that manual operation for the way they want to handle it. And that's fine. I have an appreciation for that. So I feel like we can add that to the guns without any kind of detraction in my military, in my opinion and experience of military use and ideas for the gun. I think we can do that and give them something extra without violating, in my opinion, a lot of the important stuff with the gun.
Yeah. What do you think about left side ejection?
I've never had one, so I guess I can't really poo-poo it because I've never had one, but I've never been drawn to have one, I guess. So I don't know. That's a good question. I guess I should go ahead and get one and have some experience with it, but I don't want to talk smack. I mean, if I don't have experience with it, the last thing I should do is be like, So that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't. It's out of my wheelhouse. I guess I never gravitated towards getting one. So, how about you? You lefty?
No, I'm a righty. I was born appropriately, but just recently I was out in Finland for the Rifle World shoot, and the guy that I was shooting with is a lefty, and we built him off of our platform. We built him a left-handed ejected AR, and so he's from the Philippines, so I had to meet him over in Finland with the rifle, so I had to do all the zeroing and everything with it to start with. And so it just made me think of it when you're talking about having the gas and everything in your face. Me being a right-handed shooter, zeroing a left-handed injecting gun with my right side because that's my more dominant shooting position. Like, it was weird for me to have, all that gas and the brass flying past my face and all that. So it was just, I could see, having done that and being used to shooting right-handed, I could see as a left-handed shooter how that could be nice, if you're just out trying to shoot, and now you've got all the brass and the gas going the opposite way and not like directly into your face. So.
Yeah, and that's true. It's just something that never even really occurred to me to go out and get. I'd see them, but for some reason, once again, not being bright, the light bulb didn't go off. Going, hey, maybe that's a good idea for you. I was just so used to it, like once again, my upbringing for all the military shooting was like, this is the gun you got, make it work. And so, you know what I mean? And it's like, all that gas probably dumbed down my neurons in my brain. I didn't think to go try the other way. So I probably should sometime, just for the hell of it, just buy an upper and build a gun and play with it. I just hadn't done it yet. So now that you say that, I'll check it out. That light bulb probably should have went on when I was eating so much suppressor gas. But yeah, clearly it dumbed me down quick enough that the light bulb didn't go on. So
what are you going to do if it changes everything? And you're just going to have to create an entire new line, Centurion Arms, left-hand ejecting. I mean, it could be another rabbit hole for you. I don't know if you're ready for it.
I know.
It's going to expand into shop and everything.
So, man.
Oh, but it's man, being lefty is kind of rough in the gun industry. They don't. There's not. Well, it's a little bit better these days, but for a long time, it just wasn't a whole lot of support being left-handed, especially in the fire, like the handguns, I should say. Like, everybody having magazine release on one side and slide catch, slide release, especially like 1911s. Nowadays, you can find them with ambi slide catch, slide release, and stuff. But yeah, you probably were real heavy into it in an era where the left-handed person just wasn't thought of at all. And then, yeah, being in the military, they're just like, this is what you have.
Yep.
Make it work. And it's kind of funny because I have coworkers that are left-handed, like G-Dub for one. One is he's so used to running a 1911 left-handed, even though it's like a setup for a right-handed shooter, that when he got a 1911 that was friendly for a left-handed shooter, he just couldn't like at first figure it out. It was just like, this feels weird. I'm so used to using that index finger reaching way up, and I'm so used to X, Y, and Z, and it's just kind of funny to get stuck in your ways, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there is another option, but I like what I have. I'll just stick with it. So
yeah, and that's
try that left-handed ejection. We'll see what happens for you.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll do that shot. Like you said though, with the 1911s, I totally get that. When you say the 1911s, like that's like real crystal clear to me, because I was so used to the one thing that I did was you look for other products that solve the problem, and what you're used to is like that same thing as that the slide stop. So I want to say someone had a Springfield Armory had a double stack 1911 for a while, and they had a slide stop that was wider. So it would slide out further and had a flat shelf on it to go around the mag well because it was so fat. But I found putting it in standard 1911s gave you more of a positive shelf to push down on to release the slide. So I would do little mods like that. You'd get that, and then, basically hit it on the grind wheel to get it exactly shaped like you want, and put that in the gun and blew it up. And So, yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying with the 1911, And then the mag buttons, find the right mag button of the right size to put it in there. And, whether you take a coil or two off because, obviously your shooting finger and you're not in the optimum position anymore as you rotate, to get the finger on it. So you might, burn a coil or two off depending on the heaviness of the spring to get exactly what you want out of it. So yeah, I can relate to all that stuff, all those little mods for lefties.
Do you think that had anything to do with you becoming a gun nut? Is trying to figure out how to make this right-handed platform work better for your left-handed self? Or do you think it just happened to be?
Yeah, I think it helped. I think a little bit it happened to be, but I think it helped. And the same thing with a lot of the new gun weapon systems that we're doing. One reason why I like to get back into shooting is because when I come up with something new, I like to do the problem solving of putting it into action, I guess, if you will. I've been out shooting, doing some long range shooting with some new guns that we put together, working with some new cartridges that I hadn't worked with it before, and I just like the whole idea of going out there with something new, problem solving, how I'm going to use it, its use case. It's like, okay, mathematically, I see this on paper, people talking about this. Let's make a prototype of it, burn out a new cartridge, look at it, take it to the range, shoot it. Is this something I want to do or not do? Figure out the drops, what the optimum scopes are that we like to use for it. And then, running a dope on it, run it and kind of creating that, that entire system, I guess, if you will, and to use something usable for me and go, okay, is this something that I can use or not use? So we're going to carry it as a product, not carry it as a product kind of thing. Does it have a hole or a niche or a viability? So I like running through all those problem solving things, with it. So I would say being a lefty, some of the little problem solving things, it kept my eyes open for stuff and tuned into stuff, I think was definitely helped, I think. So.
Well, getting out there and doing it also keeps you in tune with what's actually going on, because it's easy to, things from an engineering standpoint, things can make sense on paper, but then on like actual application, like how it works, how it runs, there's little things that people don't think about when they're building it. They're building it up on, 3D models and stuff. So I think it's huge. You got to get out there, you got to shoot it, you got to try it. It's good for your health to get out there and shoot a little bit and just enjoy it again.
Actually, I totally agree. That's what I liked about the background. The background got me into it a lot. I've got to do a lot more shooting, and now that's where I've gotten so bogged down in the manufacturer. I'm trying to get back out the door to do more shooting, just like you said. It kind of keeps you in it, and your brain clicking towards, the end user side of the product stuff.
And remembering why you're doing it, because it's enjoyable. It is fun to shoot. And it's a lot of it is challenging, especially long range stuff. It's something that I want to get a lot better at. What kind of holds that you need to have based on this Mirage and how fast it's moving. Like, it's problem solving the whole time. And so if you're somebody like you, obviously enjoys problem solving, actually what you've been doing, got to be a really good just release and just to get your, because that's really all that long, well, shooting in general, but different in a lot of ways from the military, but it's also, I think there's a lot of benefit that competitive shooting can have on somebody who is, utilizing the firearm as a profession, if it's LEO or if it's military. And a lot of it is just those, being able to get yourself into a situation that you haven't been in before in a safe setting to be able to apply it down the road if you ever need to. So it's hard to come up with a decision right now without having any kind of backstory or any kind of anything for your brain to rely on. So putting yourself in a stressful situation that's kind of a mock-up, if it's a competition or drills that like some that we do over at our Rainier Arms Firearms Academy, is called Tactical Thursday. And essentially what it is the people come in, they're just our members or just customers, whoever they come in, they sign up, and we build out an entire bay that has a problem that we've decided is going to be there today. And it could be different types of no-shoots or targets with body armor on them and stuff. But the big thing is you don't get to see that. It's all tarped up. And then we just describe hey, this is the scenario is simple. It's just, shoot these type of targets. If you see the brown ones, those are the ones that you shoot. If you see the white ones, those are no-shoots, or maybe they're just hands up. But they have no essay. So it's not like a USPSA where you get to walk around the stage and figure out which target you're going to shoot from what position and all that. When we hit go, you push into the bay from behind the tarp and you have to figure it out. But sometimes it's low light, and it's funny because they will have the light on their gun and never turn it on. And they just be sitting there trying to shoot in a low light scenario and find out that they just shot 4 people with their hands up, somebody with a cell phone or something, But the idea is you put them in these situations so that if anything ever happens in real life, you've kind of been there before, and your body can take that and your brain can take that and essentially play off of that. I mean, it's hard to do something that you've never done before. So that's my long spiel, is saying I think that the competitive side, that's why I enjoy it, is that it's a lot of problem solving, but it's also setting me up. And I see it more and more where I can be shooting a certain array and it gets easier each time, even if I'm not practicing it. And it's simply because I've done it before. I've done that in a competition. I've kind of had to make this step or this movement. And to me, that's really enjoyable. It's just solving this little problem of what's this next step? What's this next part? And I think that's why I also really want to get into long distance shooting, because it's all problem solving, and it's a new problem for me. So anyways, this isn't about me, and I don't know why I decided to go on that long rant about it, but I think that's a very powerful aspect, is being able to have that subconscious know-how, or at least understanding.
Absolutely, I agree.
So when it comes to the prior military experience, is there a funny story that you want to end this off with? Anything that you would be able to share, a funny moment that happened to you, like a WTF, or I hope nobody finds out about this kind of thing?
You know what? There's actually, man, I was like, oh man, I was drawing a blank on it. But I would say one that I look back on as kind of funny. And I will say that the instructors at the moment were laughing their ass off. When I can't even say a young team guy, because it was actually in buds. So it was during buds. It was the third phase. So we were on the island, and we'd already done all of our calls. So they were kind of introducing us to immediate action drills, IADs and stuff. So it's it was very canned shooting and moving. Very keen shooting and moving. So what they would do is obviously you do that where you're an element and then you split up and then you leapfrog back while the other one's shooting and stuff. And it was so keen that they had 2x4s and stuff laid out there kind of thing. And the instructors would go behind you while you were moving back. Well, not thinking something totally through, what I'd end up doing was they're so active, and the story will probably throw you off a little bit, but you open up the military ammo cans, right, and seen the bandoliers that you put over you, right? You see how they always come with like safety pins. Yeah. Have you seen that? How they get safety pins on? Okay. So in all the running around, basically my pants rip right around the button fly, so my junk is hanging out pretty much all the time. You know, obviously I'm standing there, it's not quite as covered up, but if I sit down, I've got air conditioning, you know what I mean, that I shouldn't have. So me not thinking too brightly, I take some of these pins, right, and I go ahead and I pin my pants back together, right? So the next time we're up there doing IADs, running around, during one of the times of jumping around, I must have stretched and popped my pants and those pins popped open. So I'm like this dumb young new guy, and I know better than to get out of alignment. So I jump up, and I feel these needles go swoop, and they stick into me, the part you can imagine, right? You know, so they stick into me, and I'm like, whoa. And so basically I'm running like this with my legs apart, and I'm running back, and the instructors are like, what the hell are you doing, you know? And I'm like, and I point down, and like, oh. And so everybody's, you know, I ran back and I stayed in alignment with them like I was supposed to. They all get down and shoot. So I hand the instructor my gun real quick, and I was able to pull them out and throw them down and grab it back and get down in line. And they were all laughing their asses off. So there I was with 2 needle holes in my dick from safety pins that were stuck in my crank during IADs, because I didn't really think that through. I didn't think about those coming undone kind of thing. And so there I was with 2 needles stuck in my crank. They're laughing their asses off. And just, you know, handed me my gun back, and I just joined back into the IADs and kept going and stuff. But I didn't get out of alignment, that's for sure. I stayed right on line with everybody. I didn't just, you know, I kept it all going. So, but they thought that was pretty funny. So, and then looking back, I'm like, okay, that's kind of amusing.
That is funny. I mean, and as you're telling the story, I can already tell where it was going. Like that was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As soon as I said the safety pins, you're like, yeah, that's not the best spot to have safety pins. So, and it really wasn't. So I figured that out that day. So,
I mean, to your defense, you must have been tired, you know, lack of sleep and not enough nutrients and all that. We'll just say, you know, in a better situation, you would have known that. Well, you do now, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't use safety pins down there anymore.
So, no safety pins in my pants.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some experiences kind of like that with sports, thinking that this would be a quick, easy fix. I did that with like a jersey when we were, I think it was in high school. They were loose around the arms and kind of floppy, so I took a safety pin, balled it all up and safety pinned it. And then same kind of idea, you're running around and you get hit and then you get a nice little poke. Mine didn't go like, it kind of went through the skin and out, but same idea. Seemed like a good idea at the time. It's going to keep my shirt where it needs to stay or my jersey where it needs to stay. And then next thing you know, I was bleeding a little bit, but I'm glad it wasn't down south. That could have been, that must have been unpleasant for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Luckily, nothing got infected. It all ended up being fine after that, but it was a good laugh for them and later on myself. So,
yeah.
Right.
Well, Monty, I want to say thank you so much for taking time to do this. To my knowledge, I don't think you've ever done an interview like this. Maybe you have. I just haven't seen it.
No, I don't think so. So,
all right. Well, hopefully the viewers will enjoy it, because I know there's a lot of really good information about you, but more importantly, like the company, right? I think it's important to know you and the company, so it makes sense, because knowing your background and how the fact that you were a gun geek and the details that you had in makes more sense onto why you make the firearms the way that you do. They're high quality hard use. You know, they don't jiggle around. They're solid units. And then understanding like you're not trying to go after the fads, and you're not trying to go after the newest, coolest, latest thing. You're going off of what has been proven to work. And I'm sure when there's a fad, if that fad ends up getting proven to work, I'm sure you'll adopt it as need be. But you're not essentially jumping on the fad and trying to capitalize on the money there, and then find out that fad it really wasn't hyped up, it was all hyped up too much, I guess. But I do, again, thank you so much for spending some time. I think we spent about an hour on this Zoom call. But is there anything else you want to leave with for the viewers?
Yeah, I'm just, keep your eyes open. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. So, we're probably working on more stuff recently than we have at any time, in our past, as well as trying to get the shop up and running and automated, so we'll have more product to go around, kind of thing. And so that's the main thing from us. And just happy to be here with you and Radio Arms today. It's always been a great partner, great partnership with you guys. And so, watch for us. And I'm always look to Radio Arms for good stuff. So appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks, Monty. Appreciate it. You have yourself a good day and stay away from safety fans, all right?
Hey, will do. Thanks, Sean.
All right. See you.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay. So Thomas,